The TV flickered, painting the living room in shades of blue and green. The Yankees were down by 2, bottom of the 8th, and the crowd's roar spilled through the speakers, filling the quiet of my suburban Virginia home. I sank deeper into the couch, the leather creaking under my weight, a half-empty IPA sweating on the coffee table. My phone buzzed against the wood, sharp and insistent, cutting through the announcer's drawl. I grabbed it, expecting a work email, some deadline creeping closer. Instead, it was Linda. A text, time-stamped 8:47 p.m. "Don't wait up. Girls are killing it tonight." I stared at the words, my thumb hovering over the screen. The message was light, casual, the kind she'd sent a dozen times before. But something about it landed wrong, like a pitch that curves just before the plate. I set the phone down, slow, deliberate, and reached for the beer. The cold glass grounded me, but my eyes drifted to the fireplace mantel, to the silver frame holding our wedding photo. Linda's smile in that picture was wide, unguarded, her hand resting on my chest like I was her anchor. 10 years ago. I squinted at her left hand in the photo, at the gold band that used to catch the light. She hadn't worn it in weeks. The game droned on, but I wasn't watching anymore. My mind churned, sifting through the last month. The late nights at her marketing firm, the way she'd started locking her phone, the vague answers when I asked about her day. "Just work stuff, David. You know how it is." Her voice, always so smooth, had a new edge, like she was measuring every word. I'd brushed it off, told myself I was paranoid, that marriage ebbs and flows. But the doubts kept piling up, heavy as the August humidity outside. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and opened the tracking app we'd installed years ago. "For safety," she'd said, laughing, after we'd gotten lost on a hike in Shenandoah. I hadn't checked it in forever. My finger hesitated over her name, the little green dot next to it pulsing like a heartbeat. I tapped it. The map loaded, zooming in on a pin that wasn't her office, wasn't her friend Sarah's place, wasn't anywhere she'd mentioned. It was downtown, at the Marriott. The room felt smaller, the air thinner. I stood, the beer forgotten, and crossed to the window. The cul-de-sac was dark, just the neighbor's porch light flickering through the oaks. Linda's text glowed in my mind, bright and sharp, like a warning flare. I didn't know what I'd do next, but standing still wasn't an option. The TV was still blaring, some beer ad now, all grins and clinking bottles, but I barely heard it. My phone sat heavy in my hand, the map still open, that green dot pulsing at the Marriott like a taunt. I locked the screen and tossed it onto the couch, trying to shake the image of Linda somewhere she wasn't supposed to be. The house was too quiet without her laugh, her heels clicking on the hardwood. I paced to the kitchen, the linoleum cool under my socks, and grabbed another IPA from the fridge. The cap hissed as it popped off, sharp like a warning. A week ago, she'd come home at 3 in the morning, her keys jangling too loud in the dark. I'd been half asleep on the couch, the glow of a late-night talk show washing over me. She'd kicked off her shoes, giggling, her hair loose and wild. "Girls' night ran late," she'd said, breezing past to the stairs. But as she leaned down to kiss my forehead, I caught it, a whiff of cologne, musky, expensive, not mine. It wasn't her perfume, either, that floral thing she'd worn since our first date. It was someone else. I should have said something. Should have sat her down, looked her in the eyes, demanded answers. Instead, I got up at dawn, ground coffee beans loud enough to drown my thoughts, and handed her a mug when she shuffled into the kitchen. "Black, 2 sugars, same as always." She'd smiled, sleepy and soft, and I'd smiled back, like a coward who'd rather pretend than know. That's what got me. The way I let it slide, let her slip through my fingers while I played house. Now, standing in the kitchen, I opened the trash bin to toss the bottle cap and froze. There, under a takeout container, was a crumpled receipt from a place called the Rusty Anchor. A downtown bar, not her usual spot. Dated last Friday, when she'd said she was at Sarah's. I smoothed it out, my thumb tracing the ink. 2 martinis, a whiskey neat, paid at 1:12 a.m. My grip tightened, the paper crinkling. Back in the living room, I unlocked my phone again. The Marriott dot hadn't moved. I thought of Linda, her charm, the way she'd light up a room, how she'd made me feel like the only guy alive when we met. That woman was fading, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. I opened a text to Sarah, my fingers hovering, then typed, "Hey, you with Linda tonight?" I hit send before I could overthink it, knowing the answer might break something I couldn't fix. The phone buzzed on the coffee table, Sarah's name lighting up the screen. I grabbed it, my pulse thudding in my ears. Her reply was short, "Nope, I'm home. Tommy's got a fever." Why? The words hit like a slap, cold and final. No girls' night. No Sarah. Just Linda, somewhere else with someone else. I stood frozen in the living room, the TV now muttering about car insurance, its glow flickering across the walls like a bad dream. I didn't text back. Didn't call Linda either. My feet carried me upstairs, past the creaky third step, to our bedroom. Her side of the closet was a riot of color, dresses, blouses, all her. I yanked out a black sundress, the one she wore to our last anniversary dinner, and tossed it onto the bed. Then a pair of heels, her makeup bag, a scarf that still smelled faintly of her perfume. Not everything, just enough. My hands moved on their own, folding, stacking, precise, like I was packing for a trip she'd never take with me. Downstairs, I found 2 cardboard boxes in the garage, left over from when we moved in 3 years ago. I carried them to the kitchen, the Sharpie in my hand shaking as I scrawled Linda Thompson across the flap. The name looked foreign, like it belonged to a stranger. I packed the dress, the shoes, the rest, each item a small cut. My mind kept circling back to her new coworker, Greg, the one she'd mentioned too casually over dinner last month. "Just a friend from the office, David. Don't be weird." His name stuck now, jagged like a splinter. The boxes fit neatly in the trunk of my old Tacoma. I climbed into the driver's seat, the leather cold through my jeans, and started the engine. The radio crackled, spitting out a Springsteen song, Thunder Road, the one we'd danced to in our old apartment, barefoot and laughing. I didn't change the station. The road stretched dark beyond the cul-de-sac, street lights pooling yellow on the asphalt. Downtown was 20 minutes away, the Marriott waiting like a judge ready to hand down a verdict. I gripped the wheel, my knuckles pale, and pulled out of the driveway. The boxes rattled softly behind me, a reminder of what I was about to do. I didn't know if I'd see her, didn't know what I'd say if I did. But I knew I wasn't turning back. The Marriott loomed ahead, its glass facade catching the city's neon pulse, blue and red streaks glinting like a warning. I parked across the street, the Tacoma's engine ticking as it cooled. The boxes sat heavy in the trunk, their weight more than cardboard and clothes. My breath fogged in the October air as I hauled them out, one under each arm, and crossed the empty road. The hotel's revolving door hissed, spitting me into a lobby of polished marble and soft jazz, the kind of place Linda loved and I never quite fit. The desk clerk, a kid in a stiff blazer, glanced up from his screen. His name tag read Tyler. I set the boxes on the counter, the thud echoing in the quiet. "Delivery for Linda Thompson," I said, my voice flat, like I was dropping off a package for a stranger. Tyler's brow creased, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. You mean a guest? I can't just." "It's for her," I cut in, nodding at the boxes. "She's expecting it." A lie, but I didn't flinch. He hesitated, then picked up the phone, muttering something about policy. I stood there, hands in my pockets, the cold metal of my keys biting into my palm. The lobby smelled of lemon cleaner and wealth, a far cry from our split level back in the burbs. Minutes dragged. Then the elevator dinged, and there she was. Linda, stepping out in a white hotel robe, hair damp and curling at her shoulders. Her eyes locked on me wide like she'd seen a ghost. She froze mid-step, one hand clutching the robe's belt. "David." Her voice cracked, barely above a whisper. I didn't move. Didn't yell. Just looked at her, taking in the flush on her cheeks, the way the robe hugged her like a secret. "Your delivery, ma'am," I said, tapping the boxes. "Enjoy your stay." The words tasted like ash, but they landed clean. I turned, my boots loud against the marble, and headed for the door. Behind me, she called my name again, sharper now, a plea tangled with panic. "David, wait, please!" I didn't stop. The revolving door spun me back into the night, the city's hum swallowing her voice. My truck was where I left it, a lifeline in the dark. I climbed in, slammed the door, and sat there, staring at the dashboard. My chest was tight, not with tears, but with something heavier, a quiet, burning resolve. I'd handed her the truth, boxed up and labeled. Now it was hers to carry. The drive home was a blur, just streaks of taillights and the low hum of the Tacoma's engine. The radio stayed off. Springsteen didn't have anything to say tonight. My hands gripped the wheel, steady, but inside I was unmoored, like a boat cut loose in a storm. Linda's face kept flashing in my mind, those wide eyes, the robe slipping slightly as she reached for words that never came. I'd left her there, in that gleaming lobby, with 2 boxes and the truth. It should have felt like victory. It didn't. Back in the cul-de-sac, the house looked smaller, its windows dark like closed eyes. I killed the engine and sat in the driveway, the silence pressing in. The neighbor's dog barked once, sharp, then quit. I climbed out, the gravel crunching under my boots, and let myself in. The living room smelled of stale beer and yesterday's takeout, the TV still muttering about late-night infomercials. I flicked it off. The quiet was louder. Upstairs, our bedroom, my bedroom now, felt like a museum. Her perfume lingered on the pillows, a ghost I couldn't shake. I opened my laptop, the screen's glow harsh in the dark, and typed "Divorce Attorney Richmond, Virginia" into the search bar. Names and faces popped up, all promising discreet and compassionate service. I clicked on one, James Callahan, 5 stars, office downtown. His bio said he'd handled complex cases. Good enough. I started an email, my fingers slow. "Mr. Callahan, I need to discuss a divorce. Can we meet soon?" I didn't hit send. Not yet. My eyes drifted to the closet, half empty now. I thought of my dad, years ago, sitting at our old kitchen table after Mom's affair came out. He'd stayed, said it was for me, but I'd seen the light go out in him. He'd chosen half measures, let love curdle into duty. I wasn't him. I wouldn't be. I closed the laptop and stood, my shadow long on the wall. The bed looked too big, too empty. I grabbed a blanket and headed downstairs to the couch. The springs groaned as I lay down, staring at the ceiling. Linda's voice echoed in my head, "David, wait," but it was drowned out by something new, something solid. A decision. No going back. Not this time. Morning light crept through the blinds, slicing the living room into strips of gold and shadow. I woke stiff on the couch, my neck complaining from the awkward angle. The blanket had slid to the floor, and the house was cold, October sinking its teeth in. I sat up, rubbing my eyes, Linda's voice still looping in my head. "David, wait." It wasn't real, just the ghost of last night, but it stung all the same. I shuffled to the kitchen, started the coffee maker. Its gurgle was the only sound as I headed upstairs. The closet door hung open, mocking me with its half-empty rack. Linda's stuff was still there. Scarves, a few sweaters, books she'd never cracked. I couldn't leave it. Not anymore. I grabbed a trash bag from under the sink and got to work, pulling down her things with steady hands. A dog-eared copy of Eat, Pray, Love. A silk scarf, emerald green. A pair of earrings I'd bought her in Asheville. Each item went into the bag, quick, no lingering. Then I found it, tucked in a shoebox. A letter, folded tight, her handwriting scrawling David across the front. Our first anniversary, when we were still broke and giddy, living in that shoebox apartment downtown. I unfolded it, the paper soft from time. "You're my home, always." My throat tightened. I crumpled it, tossed it into the bag, and tied the knot hard. Morning light crept through the blinds, slicing the living room into strips of gold and shadow. I woke stiff on the couch, my neck complaining from the awkward angle. The blanket had slid to the floor, and the house was cold, October sinking its teeth in. I sat up, rubbing my eyes, Linda's voice still looping in my head. David, wait. It wasn't real, just the ghost of last night, but it stung all the same. I shuffled to the kitchen, started the coffee maker. Its gurgle was the only sound as I headed upstairs. The closet door hung open, mocking me with its half-empty rack. Linda's stuff was still there. Scarves, a few sweaters, books she'd never cracked. I couldn't leave it. Not anymore. I grabbed a trash bag from under the sink and got to work, pulling down her things with steady hands. A dog-eared copy of Eat, Pray, Love. A silk scarf, emerald green. A pair of earrings I'd bought her in Asheville. Each item went into the bag, quick, no lingering. Then I found it, tucked in a shoebox. A letter, folded tight, her handwriting scrawling David across the front. Our first anniversary, when we were still broke and giddy, living in that shoebox apartment downtown. I unfolded it, the paper soft from time. You're my home, always. My throat tightened. I crumpled it, tossed it into the bag, and tied the knot hard. The doorbell chimed at 9:32 a.m., sharp enough to cut through the coffee steam curling from my mug. I froze mid-sip, the kitchen clock ticking louder than it should. Only one person would show up this early, unannounced. I set the mug down, the ceramic clinking against the counter, and walked to the front door. Through the peephole, Linda stood on the porch, her hair pulled back, face bare of makeup. She looked smaller, like the wind had taken half of her. I didn't want to open the door. Wanted to leave her out there with the dew and the neighbor's sprinkler hissing across the street. But I turned the knob anyway, stepping back to keep the hallway between us. She didn't cross the threshold, just stood there, eyes darting to the pile of her things. Trash bags, boots, that damn yoga mat, sprawled by the wall. David, she started, voice low, can I come in? No, I said, sharper than I meant. You can stay right there. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, the wood cool against my shoulder. The hallway smelled of dust and her perfume, a mix that turned my stomach. I messed up, she said finally, hands twisting the hem of her jacket. Last night, it wasn't what you think. I got caught up, drank too much. He's just a friend, I swear. Her eyes begged me to buy it, but I saw the lie in the way she couldn't hold my gaze. I thought of the robe, the damp hair, the boxes I'd left at the Marriott. My jaw tightened. Save it, I said. You don't get to rewrite this. She flinched, and then I saw it. The bracelet on her wrist, silver with a tiny charm, the one I'd given her for her birthday. She was fidgeting with it, rolling it between her fingers like a lifeline. Something broke in me, not loud, just a quiet snap. I stepped forward, pointing at the pile. Take your stuff and go back to your friend. She opened her mouth, a sob catching in her throat, but I was done. I pulled my phone from my pocket, scrolled to James Callahan's contact. The attorney I'd found last night, and hit call. Yeah, this is David Thompson, I said when he picked up, my voice steady, loud enough for her to hear. I need to meet today. Divorce papers. Linda's hand flew to her mouth, the bracelet glinting. I hung up, meeting her eyes one last time. Get out. The lawyer's office was a 10-minute drive, but I took the long way, weaving through Richmond's backstreets where the oaks were starting to shed. The Tacoma's tires hummed against the asphalt, the dashboard clock glowing 10:37 a.m. My phone sat silent in the cup holder. No texts, no calls, just the ghost of Linda's face from the hallway, her hand over her mouth, the bracelet catching light. I turned up the radio, some country song about heartbreak, and snorted. 2 on the nose. Callahan's building was all glass and sharp angles, the kind of place that screamed money. I parked, my boots scuffing the lot's fresh tar, and headed inside. The lobby smelled of coffee and new carpet, a world away from the stale air of home. I kept seeing her. Linda laughing at our first housewarming, her hair tucked behind one ear as she poured wine. The memory stung, bright and cruel. I pressed the elevator button harder than I needed to. Upstairs, Callahan's waiting room had leather chairs and a view of the James River, sluggish under the morning sun. I sank into a seat, my knee bouncing. Part of me wanted to bolt, back to the house, to her, to the life we'd built before it cracked. I remembered our trip to Virginia Beach, years back, her running into the surf, daring me to follow. I'd stood on the shore, laughing, thinking we'd always have that. Now I was here, about to sign it all away. The receptionist called my name. I stood, smoothing my jacket, but my eyes caught on a photo in my wallet as I pulled it out, a Polaroid from that beach trip, Linda's smile wide, sand on her cheek. My chest tightened. I could still call it off, tell Callahan I'd changed my mind. She'd cried in the hallway, hadn't she? Maybe she meant it, maybe. Then I saw her again, in that hotel robe, the lie in her eyes when she said friend. The Polaroid went back in my wallet, face down. I walked into Callahan's office, the door clicking shut behind me. "I'm ready," I said, my voice low but sure. The river outside sparkled, indifferent, and I didn't look back. He sat across from me, a wiry guy with gray at his temples, his desk cluttered with files and a single photo of a kid on a bike. The divorce papers lay between us, a thin stack, crisp and final. "Take your time, Mr. Thompson," he said, his voice smooth, practiced. "This is a big step." I nodded, my fingers grazing the pen he'd set out. The room was too warm, the radiator humming faintly, and sunlight slanted through the blinds, catching dust in the air. I saw Linda's face again. Not from the hallway, not from the hotel, but from a random Tuesday years ago, her stirring pasta in our old kitchen, humming off-key. The memory hit like a jab, quick and sharp. I could still walk away. Call her, hear her out, try to glue back what was broken. She'd looked so small on the porch, her jacket twisted in her hands. Callahan shifted in his chair, the leather creaking. "You sure about this?" he asked, not pushing, just checking. I thought of my dad, his voice low over a beer one night, years after Mom left. "I stayed too long, kid. Don't make my mistake." He'd lived half a life, hollowed out by compromise. I wasn't him. I wouldn't be. The pen was heavier than it should have been. I flipped to the last page, my eyes skimming words like dissolution and irretrievable. Linda's name stared back, black ink on white, a stranger's now. I pressed the pen down, my signature sharp and deliberate, David R. Thompson. It wasn't anger driving me, not anymore. It was clarity, cold and clean, like the first frost. I slid the papers back. Callahan gave a small nod, stacking them neatly. "I'll file these today," he said. "You'll hear from me soon." I stood, my legs steady, and shook his hand. The river outside gleamed through the window, same as it had an hour ago, but I felt different. Lighter, like I'd shed a skin I didn't need. I walked out, the doors clicked soft behind me, and stepped into the hallway. The air smelled of rain coming. For the first time in weeks, I breathed easy. The divorce went through in a matter of weeks, a quiet unraveling handled by Callahan's steady hand. Linda tried to claw her way back. Phone calls I didn't answer, a tearful voicemail about second chances, even a visit to my office that ended with her leaving in silence when I wouldn't budge. I wasn't cruel, just done, my heart hardened by the truth she'd tried to bury. No compromises this time, only forward. The new apartment smelled of fresh paint and possibility, a one-bedroom on the edge of Richmond with creaky floors and a view of a dogwood tree. I'd been here a month, my stuff still half unpacked, boxes of books and dishes stacked against the wall like cautious guests. Morning light spilled through the window, warming the coffee mug in my hand as I leaned against the counter. Outside, a jogger passed, her ponytail bouncing, and a delivery truck rumbled down the street. Life moving on, same as always. I'd gone to the gym earlier, the old one near work, where the air smelled of rubber mats and sweat. I'd loaded the barbell, heavier than usual, and pushed through set after set, my arms burning, breath sharp. It wasn't about looking good or proving anything, Just feeling the weight, the control, something solid when everything else had crumbled. I'd caught my reflection in the mirror, a guy I almost recognized, and smirked. Not broken. Not yet. Back at the apartment, I noticed a letter on the counter, slipped through the mail slot while I was out. Linda's handwriting, neat and familiar, spelling my name across the envelope. My thumb brushed the edge, but I didn't open it. I saw her face, those wide eyes in the hotel, the bracelet glinting in the hallway, but it didn't pull me under anymore. I walked to the trash can, the floorboards groaning, and dropped the letter in, unopened. It landed soft, next to a coffee filter and yesterday's takeout box. Done. I crossed to the window, mug still warm in my hands. The dogwood's leaves were turning, flecks of red against green, and the sky stretched wide, bruised with clouds promising rain. I thought of the house, the cul-de-sac, the life I'd left. It didn't ache like it used to. The coffee was strong, just how I liked it, and the apartment felt like mine. Not hers, not ours. I sipped, watching the street below, and a smile tugged at my mouth, small but real. The world was still turning, and I was still here, standing taller than I'd expected. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to the channel. I wish you a great mood and good luck.